What does the Bible say about dinosaurs? Did you know that dinosaurs are being used probably more than anything else to communicate that the world is millions and millions and millions of years old? Dinosaurs and their narrative in children's books and in our school textbooks are one of the most primary used things, the thing that used the most to communicate millions of years old. However, the Bible gives an entirely different framework for explaining dinosaurs. They did live on the earth, and it wasn't that long ago, just a few thousand years. So evolutionists will try to mystify the existence of dinosaurs to promote the idea of millions of years. But the goal of this Truth Talk, I want to examine several points and help us understand what God says about dinosaurs and how it fits into the scriptural narrative so that we understand and are not misled by millions of years. So truth number one, dinosaurs were created on the sixth day of creation. According to the Bible timeline, God created the world about 6,000 years ago. Genesis chapter 1, verse 24 and 25, then God said, "Let the earth produce every sort of animal, each producing offspring of the same kind, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and wild animals." And that's what happened. God made all sorts of wild animals, livestock, and small animals, each able to produce offspring of the same kind. And God saw it, and it was good. Dinosaurs are classed as wild animals, which God made along with the other varieties. If you continue reading in Genesis chapter 1, you'll see that on the same day, day 6, is when God created Adam and Eve. So we can understand that on the same day that God made dinosaurs, he made us. And as a result, we know automatically that dinosaurs and humans coexisted on the earth, despite what the evolutionists say. Truth number two, dinosaurs were on Noah's Ark. The Bible is very clear that every kind of air-breathing land animal, including the dinosaur kinds, were on board Noah's Ark. Genesis chapter 7, verse 15. 2 by 2, they came into the boat, representing every living thing that breathes. A male and female of each kind entered, just as God had commanded to Noah. The key to understanding the miracle of Noah's Ark is kind. It's not that every animal was on the ark because it wouldn't fit, but every kind. So you only needed a few dog kinds on Noah's Ark to be able to populate genetically into a variety of breeds that we have today. And so additionally, people also forget that the animals could have been in their infancy, in their baby stage, so they'd be a lot smaller. And so the story picture of Noah's Ark with the big giraffe sticking his neck out and the elephant trunk, hanging out the side, the elephant, the giraffe, those things would have very much been small. So dinosaurs were on Noah's Ark in the dinosaur kind. At least the kinds of dinosaurs were, and most likely they were small. Truth number three, dinosaur fossils were formed in the flood. All fossils were formed in the flood. In fact, the fossil record speaks of a worldwide flood. So when God flooded the earth, all land-dwelling life is wiped out. It's destroyed, and it happens suddenly with the cataclysmic earthquakes, the great deep breaking forth. And so that is how animals and living things were buried suddenly and preserved. That doesn't happen in normal life. If you kill something, hit a deer on the road, it doesn't fossilize. It's filled with maggots and it's eaten. Noah's Ark, the flood, buried things suddenly and created the fossil record. So dinosaur fossils were formed in the flood. We have all the biblical truth for this about 4,300 years ago. Truth number four, the post-flood world was different. Before the flood, the Bible describes earth as a very different earth than it was following the flood. So for example, scripture alludes to the fact that for over 1,000 years it never rained before the flood. Also, we know that life lived much longer. Adam lived 900 and some years. There was a very different atmosphere, a very different ecosystem. And when the heavens left the rain come down and the earth burst forth, the world as we know it came into form. Continents, oceans, the ozone layer, all these things, it's a huge discussion, but the bottom line point for this Truth Talk is that huge climate change happened during Noah's ark. In fact, we have very good reason to believe there was an ice age directly following the flood. There's reason for this. It fits into the biblical narrative. So the post-flood world was different, and we talk about what happened to the dinosaurs. They began to die out in this new climate. These things were large beasts. They required a lot of oxygen. The post-world didn't have the oxygen concentration that pre-flood world did. So you've got now a growing reality of climate change, disease, a human population that's growing, and large dinosaurs that came off the ark began to die. Very simple. Truth number 5, dinosaurs are real. In case you're sitting here wondering, were dinosaurs real? Listen, as Christians, we don't need to deny the existence of dinosaurs. They really existed. There are fossils, but our Bible alludes to them. Let me give you a couple passages. Job chapter 40, verse 15. Take a look at Behemoth. Now, that's just a name for a huge animal that we don't know what to call it. Behemoth, which I made just as I made you. It eats grass like an ox. See its powerful loins and the muscles of its belly. Its tail is as strong as the cedar. The sinews of its thighs are knit together. Its bones are tubes of bronze. Its limbs are bars of iron. It's a prime example of God's handiwork, and only its creator can threaten it. So this thing's like top dog in the food chain. The mountains offer it their best food, where all the wild animals play. It is not disturbed by the raging river, nor concerned when the swelling Jordan rushes around it. No one can catch it off guard or put a ring in its nose and lead it away. Psalm 74 speaks of Leviathan, massive sea monsters. The Bible references these kind of real large animals. So dinosaurs are real. We don't need to deny it. Truth number 6, you ought to know that the word dinosaur is a new word. When the Aramaic, Greek, and Latin texts were being translated into English, the word dinosaur didn't exist. I found this interesting. 1841 is the conception of the word dinosaur. That's when a British anatomist, Sir Richard Owen, realized I need a word to represent this category of large boned reptiles we're finding. So he made up the word dinosaur. So that's why the word dinosaur is not in our Bible, because it wasn't around whenever the original texts were translated. Truth number 7, history records dinosaurs. I began to research and look into this. You know, there's many historical documentations of encounters with dinosaurs. A story dating back 2,000 years before Christ. We have it. It's a hero by the name of Gilgamesh. And while he's cutting down trees, encounters a, quote, huge, vicious dragon that he killed and brought the head back as a trophy to the village. When Alexander the Great, very real historical figure, marches into India, his army found the Indians had, quote, huge hissing reptiles in caves that they worshipped. England and several other cultures tell stories like that of St. George, who slew a dragon that lived in a cage, fire-breathing dragons, etc. There's so many historical accounts of dinosaurs post-flood engaging with people. Truth number 8, we really don't know what dinosaurs looked like. Capture this. You are being fed a narrative about dinosaurs, but how many of you know rarely is a dinosaur found in its full form? In that cataclysmic flood, the bones, the bodies busted up, and so there's only a few bones that are fossilized and are found together. If an entire skeleton, so keyword if an entire dinosaur was found, all the bones intact, it'd only be about 40% of the animal because the flesh is gone. So we have, in best case scenario, 40% of the remains possibly being found. Most of the time, it's only just a few percentage of the bones are being found. That means that quote-unquote scientists are making a lot of guesses. They're making a lot of guesses about how big this thing really was and what he really looked like. I mean, I said to someone the other day, we all have a butt, but how many know all our butts look different? I got a butt bone, you got a butt bone, but how much flesh is there? It changes. So they're trying to fill in these blanks, and a lot of blanks they're filling in. So literally, you can study this. Repeated mistakes have been made in drawing what dinosaurs look like. So much they've published, they've said it's fact, and then they figured out they had the wrong head on this guy because they found other bones and they realized his head didn't look like that, so they washed that away. In fact, they've actually eliminated the Brontosaurus as he's just a fictional thing that never existed, even though they pushed Brontosaurus. He's gone. because they filled in too many blanks and put too much flesh and stuff where it wasn't meant to be. So the truth is here, we really don't know what dinosaurs look like, and we're being fed a narrative to try to capture this millions of years story when it fits all within 6,000 years that God's given to us. And that brings us to truth number 9. Once again, the Bible has the answer. So we're sitting in 2024, almost 2025. The only thing we have in the present is a few bones. They, meaning the evolutionists, the atheists, the quote-unquote scientists, are trying to piece together a few bones to figure out the past. They're trying to use carbon dating that's faulty to be able to figure out the timeline. That is not operational science where we're able to, through experimentation, draw conclusions. Instead, it's like guessing science. It's like guess who. So these guys are working with a few bones to try to piece together a story, and they have a very clear motive in the millions of years. It fits the atheist God does not exist story. So they're left to a lot of guessing. But as Christians, we have an accurate account. We have an account that fits it all together. 6,000 years ago, they were created. At the flood, 4,300 years ago, there was massive destruction. That's why we have the fossils. Why don't they live after the fact? The Bible describes a different world. We have so many answers. And so creation, the fall of man, death comes into the world, the flood redefined life. It gives answers to the question, whatever happened to the dinosaurs? So that's all for this week's Truth Talk. But there's more to be found on this subject in the best-selling book of all times, written over a span of 1,600 years in 3 languages and 3 continents by over 40 authors. The Bible is the truth. Amen.